Just wanna hurt you right now. I wanna hurt you. Shout out to Chatty. Yo, man, I look kind of crazy, gang. But that guys. Look at me. I look so light skinned right now. Shout out, chat. What's up? What's good? What's good, chat? Shout out to Chatty. What's good, y'all? What's good, peeps? What's good, people? What's good people? How's the stream? Let me check out the stream real quick. If anything is proper. God ain't done with you. Keep going. Kid D is live. Where is he? I do not see him. I can only keep 3 albums. Here's my 3. 2014 Forces Drive. Good kid, man. Say take care. That's my 3. That's my 3, boy. Didn't even have to think too much about it. Let's see what we can watch, chat. Shout out you guys, shout out what's popping. It's your boy FWIENT. I don't know what I'm doing. 1496. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We drop content daily and we go live every single day. Welcome to the channel, welcome to the channel. Sunday we're dropping a brand new album, so be sure y'all tap in so that y'all don't miss the album. We also have a performance. It's organized basically. But on my end, it's organized. Even if I'm the only person who pulls through, we can still do the performance. So I wanted to dial a performance for you guys, and I still have to pick the songs from the performance. But I wanted to make it like more R&B centric. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wanted to make it like more R&B centric. I also wanted to like perform some new songs and shit. So yeah, tap in, guys. It's gonna happen Thursday. So 2 days from now it's gonna happen. So be sure y'all tap in. It's your boy. Be sure y'all sub up as well. Be sure I get them subs up. Helping Landon plane 9/11. So was 9/11 was a terrorist attack? Because I don't have nothing about 9/11.
Why pay more for every tap? Pay low commission fees with our card machines. Bank on better with Capitec.
We have some planes. Just stay quiet and you'll be okay. We're returning to the airport. American 11, Boston Center, are you trying to reach me? Just stay quiet and you'll be okay. If you try to do anything, you'll endanger yourself and the aircraft.
A Boston air traffic controller, just 10 minutes ago, lost all contact with Flight 11. Now he's received 2 strange transmissions, and it's becoming clear. The plane's been hijacked. The transponder, the device that tells controllers where the plane is, was switched off almost immediately, which means right now, no one knows where it is.
The controller quickly relays the news of the hijacking to other controllers, then up the chain to his supervisors, and finally to the military.
Wait, this plane was actually hijacked. What the fuck?
It takes half an hour before anyone manages to make out the thick Arabic accent of the hijacker. And here's a chilling phrase. We have planes.
Not just one plane, multiple. At that moment, hundreds of other aircrafts are flying across the US sky, and the situation is spiraling fast.
I'm getting sick.
Hi, Boston Center, TMU. We have a problem here. We have a hijacked aircraft headed towards New York, and we need someone to scramble some F-16s or something up there to help us out.
Is this real world or exercise?
No, it's not an exercise. It's not a test.
Finally, Flight 11 is spotted, approaching New York City. The controllers assume it's headed for JFK Airport, so they start.
Shout out you guys, what's popping? It's Showboy FIEND Ntona Sekasi 1496. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We drop content daily and we go live every single day. New album dropping this week Friday. Well, it's gonna be Thursday midnight, but new album dropping this week Friday. There'll also be a performance on Thursday. We're gonna be performing the album, not the album in its entirety, because not everyone's gonna be available. So we're gonna perform the songs whereby the people are actually available to come and like do their thing. So it'll probably be like 5 songs or 6 songs from the album, then a couple of unreleased songs, then a couple of old songs as well. Well, not too old, so it's just gonna be a mixture. At least it's gonna be like a 1 hour set. Plus you guys are gonna be like, you know, tapping in and tell me what you guys think about the performance, which song you're fucking with and all that. So it's gonna be an experience, guys. So be sure y'all tap in. It's gonna happen Thursday. So tomorrow I'm going to be chilling with my hand, just basically relaxing. Well, I'll still edit some videos and have them up, but Thursday I'm going to do the performance, then Friday I'm going to drop the album, then have a live stream of the album. So yeah, be sure I'll tap in, guys. Dreams
clearing a runway to get it ready.
Then a breakthrough. A flight attendant from Flight 11, Amy Sweeney, manages to get on the radio. They ask her to look out
what you call this shit again?
The window and describe what she sees. Where exactly is the plane?
I see water. I see buildings. We're flying low. We're flying very, very low. Too low. Oh my god, we're too low. Oh
Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower of the World Trade Center, right into the symbol of New York and the economic heart of America. At first, no one really understands what just happened. TV networks begin live coverage from the scene. Anchors speculate it might have been some kind of tragic accident. Meanwhile, President George W. Bush is on a scheduled visit to an elementary school in Florida.
He's told that a small propeller plane has hit one of the Twin Towers, and that's all the info they give him.
The president has no idea that it was actually a full-sized commercial airliner, not a small prop plane, so he continues with the visit as planned.
Back in New York, both towers begin evacuation procedures, but not for long. In the South Tower, the evacuation is canceled shortly after it begins. Since it didn't suffer major damage, people are told to go back upstairs and return to their desks.
But things in the North Tower are getting worse by the minute. Everyone trapped above the impact zone is completely cut off. The stairwells are destroyed, elevators out of service.
Desperate, people start calling 911. But the operators don't yet understand the full scale of the disaster. So they tell people to stay put and wait for help. But on those upper floors, there's nowhere to escape the flames and the thick...
That's crazy. Whoa, living large.
Smoke.
At U.S. air traffic control, chaos is building. Now, another plane goes silent. It's Flight 175. Its transponder is still on, so the controllers can see it clearly. And they notice something terrifying. The plane is veering way off course. Just minutes later, Flight 175, flying at 850 kilometers per hour, slams.
You're inside the plane, then the plane just decides to crash. Well, the plane did not decide. You guys were basically like, you know what I'm saying, like in a helicopter, in an aeroplane. In an airplane. That shit just sounds crazy to me. Shout out, y'all. Be sure to get them subs up. New album dropping this Friday. Thierry Findlay, shout out Thierry Findlay, shout out Cora Floyd, shout out you guys. Be sure I get them
slams into the South Tower. Millions of people watch it live on television.
Welcome to the channel,
now there's
guys.
No doubt This is a coordinated terrorist attack. President Bush is still at the Florida school. That's when his chief of staff, Andrew Card, steps into the classroom and whispers the news. Another plane has hit the second tower. Bush tries to stay calm, not wanting to scare the children, but the weight of the moment is visible on his face. A few minutes later, he leaves the room. Around the same time, air traffic controllers lose contact with a third plane, Flight 77.
Airlines across the country immediately begin grounding their flights, but one air traffic controller, Ed Ballinger, decides to take it even further. He sends out a direct warning to the pilots already in the sky.
Beware of any cockpit intrusion. 2 planes have crashed into the World Trade Center.
But the message isn't clear.
Why are bananas wrapped in plastic?
Steve, that's a question that's been haunting you.
Find out why on What's the Difference.
Forgive me, I'm sick.
Not everyone understands it the first time. The pilot of Flight 93, Jason Dahl, asks for it to be repeated. Just 4 minutes later, his plane sends out a distress signal.
PTSD. Hey, goddamn, bro. Hey, bro, like, I don't know, bro. Shit, this shit was crazy, man. Because, like, me being here in South Africa, like, I didn't really feel it. But then the fact that this thing has been, like this whole 9/11 thing, it's been so prominent that I'm even checking about it today. I'm still checking about that shit. So I can't imagine what you guys actually had to go through, man. But you guys will you get better. That's all I can say, basically. It'll get better, bro. Shout out.
Air traffic controllers hear strange noises and voices coming from the cockpit. Then a man with an Arabic accent says he has a bomb.
Passengers on board Flight 93 begin calling their loved ones on their cell phones to say goodbye. It's through these heartbreaking calls that they learn the truth. A terrorist attack is unfolding.
Sure, bro. That's crazy. Bro, imagine though, these guys are telling you to call your loved ones right now. Like, call them right now and tell them we're about to slide you, bruh. We're about to slide you. That's crazy, Jen.
At exactly 9:37 a.m., the third plane, Flight 77, crashes into the Pentagon.
I was alive when it happened in USA. I don't know how old you are, but imagine everything closed and no planes in the sky. Shout out, wait, what year did it happen? I'm sure I was I alive? George Bush, though. I don't remember George Bush being a president. When did 9/11 happen? 2001? God damn, I wasn't even born when this shit happened. No wonder. I wasn't even born when this shit happened. 2001, September. But I was on the way. I wasn't even born in 2001.
Right into the U.S. Department of Defense headquarters. In response, all commercial flights are immediately grounded. Planes are ordered to land at the nearest airports. Meanwhile, the military receives the order. If any aircraft moves uncontrollably towards key government sites, they are to shoot it down. At the Twin Towers, rescue operations are now in full swing. Most people below the impact zones are successfully evacuated. But those trapped on upper floors, they can't be reached. Helicopters can't land on the rooftops because of the intense fires. And then, the South Tower collapses. Debris and a massive cloud of dust engulf everything and everyone below.
Now everyone is looking for the final hijacked plane, Flight 93. There's word it's heading for Washington, maybe the Capitol or even the White House. But it never makes it there.
Instead, it crashes in the middle of a field in Pennsylvania. Just 25 minutes later, the second tower in New York comes crashing down.
By 12:15 p.m., the last commercial flight has left U.S. airspace. Fighter jets are now patrolling the skies across the entire country. Dust and smoke slowly begin to clear, and rescue teams try to go back in, hoping to find more survivors.
New York City's mayor, Rudy Giuliani.
How do you go about an airplane being hijacked? Do you fly next to the airplane? Cause I know you can't just jump over and grab the door. I know you can't do it. So how do you actually go about it when an airplane has been hijacked? Do you wait for the airplane to land? And in the case of 9/11, if it doesn't even land, if it just shoots straight for the towers, what's going to happen then? It's crazy.
Holds a press conference. A reporter asks him how many lives were lost. The mayor replies, "More than any of us can bear." TV anchors everywhere are discussing the attack. Everyone wants to know, who did this and why? No terrorist group claims responsibility. Not yet.
At first, suspicions fall on the Palestine Liberation Organization and Saddam Hussein's regime in Iraq, but there's no solid proof.
Eventually, intelligence agencies become certain it was Al-Qaeda and their leader, Osama bin Laden. He had already declared war on the United States back in 1996, but back then no one really took him seriously.
That same evening, President Bush wrote in his diary, "The Pearl Harbor of the 21st century took place today. We believe it was Osama bin Laden."
New album this week Friday. Performance dropping as well, bro.
After the September 11 attacks, Osama bin Laden becomes the most infamous terrorist in the world. He is one of 54 children of the businessman Mohammed bin Laden. Osama was born in 1957 in Saudi Arabia. His father was a billionaire and owned the country's largest construction company. Because of this, Osama attended the best schools and lived a very privileged life. In 1971, he took an English language course.
But then, like, if he was so privileged, why did he decide to be a terrorist, though? Why did he decide to be a
at
terrorist?
Oxford, where he got exposed to Western culture.
By the late
Shout out you guys was popping. It's your boy FIIEND Ndona Sekasi 1496. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel. We drop content daily and we go live every single day. You know what I'm saying? So be sure you sub up, guys. New album dropping this week Friday, and we got a live stream performance coming Thursday. That's the day before the album drops. Then tomorrow we'll just have a Yana reaction to the whole album. Then we'll just, yeah, so shout out to y'all.
1970s, though, Osama's life and that of many Muslims was about to change drastically. In Afghanistan, communists came into power. They fight amongst themselves and split the country into two factions.
One faction calls for help from the USSR. In 1979, Soviet troops enter Afghanistan.
Shout out to y'all.
Muslims see this as an invasion by non-believers. Volunteers from across Islamic countries go to fight the Soviets. Amid all this, Osama bin Laden drops out of school and flies to Pakistan.
From there, he helps the Mujahideen, Afghan guerrilla fighters battling the Soviets. The Mujahideen are also funded by the United States, which doesn't want the Soviet Union to gain a foothold in the region. But at this stage, bin Laden and the Americans haven't crossed paths yet.
Eventually, the Soviet Union gets stuck in Afghanistan, facing fighters who are extremely motivated.
Let's move it to
Of dying. This is how Osama evolves into a full-fledged terrorist.
why?
Saudi Arabia strips him of his citizenship, and even his own family takes away his business and turn their backs. Now Osama is no longer a millionaire. On top of that, the king pressures Sudan to kick him out as well. So he heads back to Afghanistan, fully dependent on the Taliban regime and their leader, Mullah Omar. The Taliban are radical Islamists who took power after the civil war. They turned Afghanistan into one of the most closed-off countries.
Amen. Okay. Okay, now I think I'm beginning to understand why he turned into a terrorist. Like, imagine they want to strip, but why did they strip him of his shit? And now we're just too far gone to actually go back. It's fine.
Countries in the world.
Women aren't allowed to work or go to school, and even the smallest violations of religious or secular law are punishable by death. Television, photos, even those are banned. Afghanistan becomes the perfect playground for terrorists. Osama and Mullah Omar hit it off, and Osama settles in nicely.
In 1996, Osama bin Laden publicly declares war on the United States. He even issues a fatwa, a religious ruling, to back it up.
He accuses the US of occupying holy lands and supporting Israel, which, with American money, he claims, is killing Muslims. After this declaration, Osama bin Laden skyrockets in popularity.
Journalists start coming to see him. He gives interviews talking about his great war against America. In reality, Al-Qaeda was still weak at the time and couldn't fight a professional army.
To boost its reputation, bin Laden claims attacks for Al-Qaeda that it didn't even organize. A US helicopter shot down in Somalia? Yeah, that was us. An explosion at an American military base? That's us too. And even with no proof, it still builds bin Laden and Al-Qaeda's image as America's top enemy.
Osama quickly becomes a symbol for the anti-American movement. He gains new supporters, sponsors, and volunteers. Al-Qaeda starts to grow.
But America doesn't take bin Laden's threats seriously, at all. To them, he's just a poor, failed terrorist. So what? He's sitting somewhere up in the mountains of Afghanistan talking nonsense. What harm could he possibly do?
Okay, I got it fixed. Road to disaster. Okay, I got it fixed, y'all. Shout out, chat.
Osama bin Laden is making a loud, bold statement about himself. And here's the big question. How did he actually pull it off?
Let's start with the fact that Osama wasn't working alone. Meet Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, an Islamic terrorist who in the early 90s is operating separately from Al-Qaeda. Khalid has a nephew, Ramzi Youssef, and both of them are plotting new terrorist acts.
In 1993, Ramzi parks a bomb-laden car in the underground garage of one of the Twin Towers.
The plan? Blow up one tower so it collapses into the other. But the bomb isn't powerful enough. The tower stands, though the attack still kills 6 people and injures another 1,000. But uncle and nephew aren't ready to quit. In 1995, they plan to assassinate the Pope during his visit to the Philippines. But bad planning ruins their attempt again.
Next comes a third plan. Hijack and blow up 12 passenger planes all at once. But the plot is uncovered. The nephew is arrested, but authorities can't prove the uncle's involvement. So, Khalid goes underground. He hides in several countries until he ends up in Afghanistan. Once he's there, Khalid meets Osama bin Laden and shares the ideas he had with his nephew. The two terrorists hit it off. Khalid joins Al-Qaeda, and now they start plotting large-scale attacks against the United States.
Around the same time, Osama is heavily influenced by the Egyptian radical Ayman al-Zawahiri. He convinces Osama that small, isolated attacks won't make an impact. They need something massive.
Ayman al-Zawahiri wants to bring the attacks to American soil. He even has an idea for how to do it. Suicide bombers. But there's a problem. Islamic teachings...
Maybe it's for the best that we were not alive. Imagine the trauma we would be carrying if we were alive when 9/11 happened. You imagine the trauma.
Forbid suicide. So Ayman presents it differently. He frames the attacks as a death in the name of Islam, a shaheed, a martyr for the faith. And martyrs, he say, are guaranteed a place in paradise.
Soon, Al-Qaeda moves from words to action. In 1998, 2 trucks packed with explosives go off simultaneously outside the U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania. It's the first coordinated terrorist attack of its kind. Over 200 people die, and another 4,000 are injured. Among the victims are U.S. citizens.
Yo, these niggas, they really up their numbers, bro. They went from killing 6 people and injuring 200 to killing 200 and injuring thousands. God damn.
The Americans start realizing that Al-Qaeda is a serious threat. They demand the Taliban hand over the terrorists, but the Taliban refuse. So, the US fires missiles at Al-Qaeda training camps in Afghanistan. Doesn't really slow them down, and a full-scale US war isn't ready to happen. Americans were used to fighting conventional armies, but bin Laden is building something they've never faced before.
Al-Qaeda has money and a network that spans the globe. Its members operate alone. They're well-trained and ready to die, because after that, paradise awaits. Terrorists blend in with ordinary people, spending years preparing a single attack. Everything in Al-Qaeda is meticulously planned. They know how to hide from intelligence agents.
That's one thing about terrorists are not afraid of death, bro. They know for a fact after their death they're gonna be welcomed with open arms in paradise, bro.
And the most important part, they can't be wiped out with just one strike.
The FBI didn't even set up its first counterterrorism unit until 1999. Around the same time, Osama bin Laden is put on the International Wanted List. He's one of the top 10 most dangerous terrorists in the world. But in the US, only intelligence agencies really know about him. The average American, they've never heard of him, even though Osama is constantly plotting attacks.
For example, in October 2000, Al-Qaeda hits the USS Cole, an American warship patrolling the waters near Iraq. The terrorists approach the ship in a small boat packed with explosives.
The American sailors don't suspect a thing. Fishermen often float around those waters, and the people on the
Who do you think I listen to besides Lady Gaga? I listen to 2000s pop, R&B, hint. Like, name a lot. Female singers too. 2000s, you listen to Beyonce, Katy Perry. Katy Perry. Who else is from the 2000s? Rihanna. I'm standing ovation. Ooh, yeah. Rihanna. Who else? Who else was from that era, 2000s? Who else? I only know 4 singers from that era. Who's this girl again? Alicia Keys. No, Whitney Houston is she's from too long ago. I only know 5, but I'm sure I got some of them right.
Boat even wave at the military.
I'm sure I got some.
But then suddenly, they speed up, slam into the side of the ship, and explode.
The blast tears apart a hole in the Cole's hull big enough to fit a bus. 17 American sailors are killed.
But these attacks, they're really just a distraction. Because by this time, Al-Qaeda's leaders are already planning a massive strike on America's most iconic symbols.
The Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and the White House. Later, they swap the White House for the Capitol. Easier to hit, less protected. This attack combines Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's idea of hijacking planes, Ayman al-Zawahiri's concept of suicide pilots, and Osama bin Laden's burning desire to destroy the United States.
Osama is deeply committed to the plan, believing he already defeated the USSR in Afghanistan so thoroughly, in fact, that it collapsed. America is next. Osama.
Wait, 2000s singers. Wait, let me see which other singers. I do not know these women. Top 100 artists of the 200. Okay, these are rappers. Okay, Alicia Keys, yeah. I'm looking for female. Oh, Usher. Okay, Beyonce, I guessed her. Linkin Park. Destiny's Child is from the 2000s era. I didn't ask you. There's not a lot of singers here. Scissor Sisters. Aye, boo. Why do they call themselves Scissor Sisters? Oh, Jill Scott. Interesting.
Osama is convinced that after this attack, chaos will erupt in the US too, and the country will break apart into separate states.
The pilots were the heart of bin Laden's operation. Without them, nothing would work. Al-Qaeda had plenty of volunteers willing to become shaheeds, but not everyone was cut out for the job.
A suicide pilot needed to be educated, speak English, and have lived in the West for a period of time. Al-Qaeda found 3 men who fit the bill.
Mohammed Atta, Marwan al-Shaheh, and Zaid Shekhay, immigrants from Arab countries living and working in Germany. Later, Khani Khanjour joins the group. He's a licensed pilot.
Capfin is the people for the people who need a personal loan top-up. Yes, sir. You didn't hear it from us.
In short, these 4 are the main candidates.
In 85.
Some stairwells remain intact, allowing...
Don't forget Britney Spears. Oh, Christina Aguilera. I don't know her. I won't lie. Kelly Clarkson. I don't know those artists. God damn. I listen to a lot of R&B artists. Like I'm deep in R&B. So Tamia, your Whitney's, your I don't know some of them, but if you can play their song, I probably could sing it.
Part of the people to escape.
It's not that deep though.
But the situation is made worse by jet fuel, which spreads
my R&B bag is not that deep though, but I know a couple.
Through elevator shafts and mechanical systems. It ignites, and the fire devours the towers from the inside.
Meanwhile, the third plane, flown by former professional pilot Khani Khanjour, crashes into the western wing of the Pentagon at low altitude.
The wing is under renovation, so fewer people are inside than usual. Still, 125 people in the building and 64 on the plane lose their lives.
Urgent evacuations begin at the White House and the Capitol. Everyone now realizes this is a coordinated terrorist attack. Military jets take to the sky. One of the first to intercept is Lieutenant Heather Penny. Her mission? Track down the last missing airliner. 2 F-16s are scouring the skies at low altitude.
The military is ordered to shoot the plane down, but they don't even have missiles. The National Guard and other internal forces are up, but their jets aren't armed either. Getting missiles ready would take time that they just simply didn't have. So, they come up with a different plan.
Everyone saw the plane slam into the World Trade Center towers. We couldn't help the passengers.
Let me ask you a question. Do I seem like I'm a weak man? Do I seem like I'm a weak guy? And I don't mean weak in terms of like my emotions or what. Like, do I seem like the type of guy to be easily seduced by a woman? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Am I like, do I seem like the type of person to be easily seduced by a woman? Because now I'm getting accused. They're saying I get weak around women. I'm like, man, that's not true.
But we could prevent even more deaths. We agreed. The commander would ram the cockpit, and I would go for the tail. About 2 weeks later, my mom realized the pilot of Flight 93 could have been my father. He worked for United Airlines and usually flew routes on the East Coast.
But on the day of the attacks, the captain of Flight 93 was actually Heather's father's close friend, not her dad. Imagine how terrifying it would have been if Heather had to ram a plane with her own father on board. At that moment, Heather didn't even know that a fourth plane had already crashed just half an hour before she took off.
That's crazy.
The passengers on Flight 93 didn't let the terrorists reach the Capitol. They learned about the earlier attacks from family on the phone and decided to act.
They vote to storm the cockpit and try and take back the plane. They wait until the plane is flying over empty land. Meanwhile, the flight attendants are boiling water ready to throw it on the hijackers.
The uprising is led by Todd Beamer. Before storming the cockpit, he says,
"Yo, bro, imagine now you literally need to dial a rescue mission on an airplane. Next time you guys do not know how to fly an airplane, but you must dial the mission anyway."
You ready? Okay, let's roll. The phrase "let's roll" would become a rallying cry for the entire war on terror.
The passengers try to break into the cockpit. On the black box recordings, you can hear the sounds of the struggle. The hijackers fight back, shaking the plane to knock people off their feet.
But when they realize the passengers are almost inside the cockpit, they crash the plane into the ground. They were just 20 minutes from Washington. No one survived.
Meanwhile, both twin towers have been burning for hours. Rescue teams are on the scene.
They realize they can't put out the fire quickly, so first they evacuate people.
Firefighters climb the towers on foot, carrying about 30 kilograms of gear each. Some can't even keep up and fall behind. Communication is poor, radios are blocked by the steel frame and reinforced concrete.
At 9:30 a.m., the first firefighter dies. Daniel Zur, a person jumping from the South Tower, falls on him. Half an hour later, the same tower collapses, taking everyone inside, including firefighters.
Firefighters in the North Tower are ordered to evacuate, but they don't rush. Some stop to help the injured. Others search for their colleagues lost in the stairwells. By 10:28 a.m., the North Tower falls too.
At the start of the attack, there were 17,500 people in the Twin Towers. Most managed to get out, but 2,606 don't make it. On the planes, no one survives. 265 passengers and crew perish. At the Pentagon, another 125 people die. The attacks claimed the lives of 343 firefighters, 72 police officers, 55 military personnel, and 19 terrorists.
These were people from 90 countries, with different nationalities and faiths. The 9/11 attacks became a tragedy not only for Americans, but for the entire world.
That's crazy, gang. So many people lost their lives. That's crazy. But I heard he was assassinated.
September 12th. The streets around the World Trade Center lie in total ruin. Not only did the Twin Towers collapse, but nearby, Tower 7 comes down too. Hundreds of thousands of tons of metal, concrete, and furniture crash down. Insane. Years of torture had taken a severe toll on his mental state.
All of this happens because the US set up a special prison for terrorists, the Guantanamo Bay Military Base. It's a small piece of land that America leases from Cuba.
This location was chosen on purpose. US laws don't fully apply here, so terrorists can be held without trial or formal charges. Guantanamo operates under a strict regime. People are interrogated and tortured for months. The first prisoners are Al-Qaeda operatives and Taliban fighters. In 2003, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, one of the masterminds behind the 9/11 attacks, is sent there. His case is still in court today because not all evidence has been collected.
A few years after the attacks, President Bush names Iran, Iraq, and North Korea the axis of evil. He claims these countries are developing weapons of mass destruction, supporting terrorism, and threatening the entire planet. And he says the US will no longer wait to be attacked. They're ready to strike first.
This is how Bush introduces the new doctrine of preventative war. Its first target, Iraq, still ruled by dictator Saddam Hussein.
The Americans claim he helped Al-Qaeda organize the 9/11 attacks, but there's no direct proof.
In February 2003, U.S. Secretary of State Colin Powell addresses the UN. He holds up a vial with a white substance, saying it's evidence that Iraq is developing chemical and biological weapons. In March, the U.S. military invades Iraq. Within 3 weeks, they capture the capital, Baghdad. Many civilians die from the American bombings. In December of the
That's crazy. So you want to buy an army? Okay, let me see. Wait, let me see. This one. Okay, you're trying to buy this one. Looks interesting. Chat. Let's tap in and see what we got.
So you want to buy a private army? Or at the very least, you want to know what actually happens after you hire some ex-special forces and start billing governments. First of all, the most successful private army in American history didn't make its money from combat. Out of 40,000 missions Blackwater ran in Iraq, only 200 ever involved a single shot fired. So what exactly did the United States pay this company $1 billion for? What does this industry actually sell? Why will governments pay 6 times the price for it? And why does almost everyone who starts one of these companies eventually end up in prison or on a plane that mysteriously falls from the sky? In 2007, at the height of the Iraq War, the US Congress published a report that finally told America how much one Blackwater contractor in Baghdad actually cost. $1,222 a day, which works out to roughly $445,000 a year for a single man with a rifle. A regular American soldier doing the same job on the same street, in the same uniform, and with the same rifle cost the US taxpayer about 6 times less. Out of that $1,222, the contractor himself took home around $600. The rest went to his weapons, body armor, insurance, logistics, and the company's margin on top. Blackwater took 15 to 25% on every contract. Logistics alone, moving one armed contractor from a training base in North Carolina to Baghdad with full kit, life insurance, and a medical evacuation plan cost around $30,000 to $50,000 before he had fired a single shot. And these were not small contracts. In 2008, Blackwater kept just 987 armed contractors in Iraq, less than the size of one regular army battalion.
What's the one meal Benny McCarthy misses?
I know the answer, but if you want to know, you better watch What's the Difference?
With those 987 men, the company protected the entire American diplomatic corps in Iraq, from the ambassador down to visiting congressmen, and the State Department paid nearly $1 billion for the contract. The US government could have hired its own army to do the same job 6 times cheaper, and didn't. The premium was not paid for the man. Blackwater was hiring the same ex-special forces the American military had trained and released. It wasn't paid for the weapons either. A rifle costs the same in any hand, and not for the experience, which was identical. So, what was the premium actually for? The answer becomes visible if you look at one date. March 31st, 2004.
Yeah, this video is not nice. It's not fun at all. Very boring video. Let's see, what else we have here, chat? Shout out, chat. What else we got here? Let me see what else we got here, bro. Let me see what other videos we have here. Ah, you move too much, Baba. How will the golden dome work? 7 levels of mathematicians. This one looks interesting.
Around 1776, when Carl Friedrich Gauss was a child, his teacher, Johann Georg Büttner, asked the class to add 1 + 2 + 3 all the way to 100, thinking it would keep them busy. Instead, Gauss almost immediately answered 5050. What's crazy was he was right. But Gauss didn't literally add each number up in his head in a matter of seconds, he just noticed a clever pattern. If you pair numbers from opposite ends of the sum, each pair adds to 101. And because there are 50 pairs in total, the overall sum will be 101 times 50, which is 5050. In this video, I'll be digging into the 7 levels of mathematicians, where level 7 is the most epic mathematician story I could find. Level 1, Pythagoras. Whenever a normie is asked to name mathematicians, they always jump to Pythagoras because of the popularity of Pythagoras' theorem, which was invented by Pythagoras, right? Well, actually no, because the Babylonians were already using this formula over 1,000 years before Pythagoras.
I don't lie to you guys. Every time I'm watching these videos and I hear like historical name, I'll be like, that's my next bar right there.
Pythagoras also ran a secret school where discoveries made by his students were often credited to Pythagoras, even though we don't really know whether it was him or his students. What's more is we don't have any physical writings of Pythagoras himself. Many stories and discoveries were made up by writers centuries later. And he wasn't like most mathematicians, because instead of sharing his discoveries with the world, he decided to keep it secret within his own secret school, as if we all wouldn't eventually find out anyway. Level 2, Kurt Gödel. In 1931, when Kurt Gödel was only 25 years old, he published the incompleteness theorem. In plain English, it said that any powerful enough system of mathematics will always contain true statements that cannot be proven inside that system. Think about that for a second. That implies that there are mathematical statements which are true, but there are no ways that we could ever possibly prove it. It could be the case with the Riemann hypothesis, the P versus NP problem, or literally any other unproven mathematical statement. They might be true, but there may be literally no way we could ever prove them, so it might be a waste of time to even try. Level 3, Grigory Perelman. In the year 2000, the Clay Mathematics Institute put up a $1 million prize for solving the Poincaré conjecture, one of the hardest unsolved problems in mathematics. Even the world's leading mathematicians couldn't find a solution to this problem. That was until, out of nowhere, Grigory Perelman posted a series of papers online in 2002 and 2003 where he had quietly cracked the problem using ideas from geometry and flow. It took mathematicians years to check his proof, but after all the scrutiny and all the checking, they finally admitted that Perelman had done it. He was the first and only man to ever solve a Millennium Prize problem, but the story only got stranger from there. Perelman turned down the Fields Medal in 2006, and when the $1 million prize was officially offered to him later, he declined. Perelman walked away from all the money, all the fame, all the spotlight, and instead chose to live as a recluse in a small apartment in St. Petersburg. But why?
Shortly afterwards, we saw him heading straight towards the mountains.
Level 4, Alexander Grothendieck. Wow. In the 1950s and 60s, Grothendieck entered the French mathematical world and started rebuilding algebraic geometry from the ground up. He introduced ideas like schemes, which changed the language of the subject forever. Instead of merely solving one famous puzzle like Perelman, Grothendieck changed a whole field of mathematics. But then in 1970, when he was arguably the most influential mathematician at the time, Grothendieck grew disillusioned with the academic world, which he saw as corrupt, bureaucratic, and focused on power rather than truth. After that, he withdrew more and more from public mathematics and eventually disappeared entirely into isolation. He spent his final decades writing autobiographical and philosophical texts and avoiding public recognition. Level 5, Emmy Noether. Emmy Noether was born in 1882 in Germany and became an absolute monster in the field of abstract algebra. But for years, universities didn't even want to hire her because she was a woman.
Women.
Even though she was just a lady person, Noether introduced the concept of an ideal in ring theory, proved the
Let's get to level 7.
Stay.
Listen, guys, like, I'm here for the fun videos.
Level 7, Évariste Galois. Évariste Galois, as a teenager, was constantly at war with the world around him. He struggled with the French school system, then got involved in politics, and then ended up in prison. But while all that was happening, his brain was concocting mathematical ideas which later became group theory and Galois theory. Galois theory is the framework which tells mathematicians today which equations can or can't be solved using certain methods. Anyway, long story short, big man got himself into a kerfuffle with some bloke, and in classic 19th century style, the other bloke was like, "I challenge you to a duel!" The night before the duel, Galois stayed up all night, not preparing for the duel, but writing down his mathematical ideas. The next day, he was shot and died at just 20 years old. Level 8, Beetlejuice.
Sure. That's sad, boy. That's sad. 20 years old, boy. It would have been shy for the boy a couple. Come on, bro.
1 minus 1 equals.
Equals 35.
If you want to see me rank the best pi approximations, click this video, otherwise piss off.
Otherwise piss off. Try that out. Yeah, I'm doing a try. Let's see what else we have. Many shouldn't beat shebang. All of my apps stay there. Now let's see if there's a video I haven't watched here. Playlist done, Baba. Pussy ass nigga então. Private jets.
Industry nearly collapsed. Companies were canceling orders. Executives were driving to meetings instead of flying because the optics of stepping off a Gulf Stream during a recession would end careers. Congressional leaders literally told auto CEOs to sell their jets before asking for bailout money. And then, quietly, the industry came back stronger than ever. Today, there are more private jets in the air than at any point in history. And the gap between the cheapest way in and the top is wider than most people realize. One guy pays $2,000 for his seat. Another...
I'm looking for fun, for entertaining videos, gang. My niche on the beat, shebang. All of my eyes, they there. Should you like pressing my pussy ass nigga over a dome? Okay.
The path to being respected in the Yakuza begins with being treated like trash. You leave home dreaming of being an imposing gangster, but reality is quite the opposite. You don't start with katanas or pistols, but with something much more humiliating. Your life as a Koban. And what do you do as a Koban? You spend your days running errands, serving meals, and constantly going out to buy tobacco for the veterans. The worst part of it all is that if you make even one mistake, the response is immediate punishment. You're not considered a true gangster yet, and that's precisely why the older members completely ignore you. In their eyes, you're nothing more than free labor. You're an absolutely 0 yen. You spend your days constantly hungry, you're tired and aching all over, but you never complain. You listen and you work, because the most dangerous thing was for someone to declare, this one is no good for Yakuza. And that's where your career would end. One of the most feared punishments if you cause trouble is the ritual of silence. You've experienced it more than once. One night, you accidentally break a simple rule. You enter a room without giving any warning. On the following day, you are compelled to kneel down before the entire family, remaining in absolute silence for a full 12 hours, without moving or uttering a single word. And should you faint, they would violently awaken you with blows, forcing you to continue kneeling. You were not permitted to consume any food. No one would speak a single word to you. You could only hear the background conversations and the laughter of your superiors, while you trembled there from cold and shame. You're not yet part of the family, you're simply the doormat they step on before entering. The message was clear. Either you learn obedience, or you disappear. And every now and then, you're forced to endure that punishment. But unlike other rookie Koban, you always manage to endure. Because every single time you endure, every time you don't break, you convince yourself that you're one step closer to reaching the next level. As if this humiliation was some kind of entry filter. Now you're a young leader, but don't you dare be mistaken. This isn't freedom. It's just a longer leash. You're no longer scrubbing floors and no one yells at you to clean up vomit or go get tobacco. And at first, everything seems better. Now you walk in a shiny suit, dark glasses even at night, with a group of young people following you as if you were untouchable. They call you Aniki, big brother, and you start to believe it. But you begin to move a certain type of merchandise, making yourself the most exposed. And if the police catch you, what awaits you is much worse than the ritual of silence. Your new job is simple: make money. You organize illegal card games in back alleys where no one is supposed to be. You empty out entire warehouses in the dead of night, selling off whatever you can get your hands on. You visit construction sites and make it perfectly clear that if they want peace, they'll be using your company's trucks. And when a rival gang tries to move in and sell in your territory, you make sure to kick them out. Sometimes you're talking, sometimes you're not. You begin to truly savor the power. Your clothes fit you better, and the money flows through your hands as if it had always belonged there. But there's one crucial detail you must never, ever forget. The money is not yours. Every single week, you make a deep bow and hand over a thick wad of cash to your older brother. That's the tax. A tradition that's as old as the family itself. If you made 5,000, you'd better be ready to hand over 5,000. If you concealed even one bill, you are a thief, and thieves do not receive warnings, only punishments. You may be winning, but you are also burning yourself out, because...
God damn, bro. Imagine every piece... This seems like the old job that I used to have. Like, we were dealing with, like cash, like pure cash. So we were always dealing with money. I had to always hand over the hundreds, dog, the thousands, the 500s, gang. Always. I had to always hand them over, bro. Shout out, Chad. Be sure I get them.
Because now the police already know your face, and if a fight breaks out...
Man, I fucking hated that job, guys. I fucking hated that shit.
They won't arrest the boss who gives orders from his comfortable office. They're coming for you. In your very own generation, there were 3 other Koban who started out with you. One of them didn't know how to stay quiet at the proper moment. Another one believed himself invincible and ended up dead in an alley. And the third one simply disappeared after stealing a few envelopes. You're the one who's moving up in rank, so you're now the zone captain. And you don't move up in rank just by making money. You rise when you prove you won't break, not even when everything comes crashing down. Perhaps it was a raid, a fight that spiraled out of control, or simply the inevitable price that sooner or later everyone ends up paying. You spent 3 years locked away in a cold, dark cell. The police offered you deals, hot meals, a reduced sentence, but you didn't utter a single word. And in the Yakuza, that kind of silence is worth more than any fortune. That's why, when you were released, you didn't return to the same old place. You find out that you've already been promoted to zone captain. You no longer run through the streets carrying bags or watch from the corners. Now you sit at a low table, going through lists and counting stacks of money while you puff on a fine cigar. The new Kobun watch you with respect, almost like an uncle who knows the system inside out. You teach them the rules, correct their bow when they do it wrong, explain how to intimidate a merchant without needing to yell, and how to command respect with just a look. The young leaders, those from the second level, they come to you with the money. You count it calmly, you keep a fair share, and you make sure the rest goes up the chain as it should, because now you have your own territory. It might be a street full of bars that never close, or several betting parlors hidden behind convenience stores. You manage that piece of the map like a manager, but also like a soldier, and that's something you must never forget. Even with your rank, you're still a part of the force that's operating. When a rival gang crosses the boundaries and steps into your territory, the boss doesn't call a lawyer or wait for explanations. He calls you, and you already know what you have to do. Without a lot of words, you grab a metal bar, you round up the toughest of your crew, and you head out to remind the block who's running things. Because even though everyone respects you now, you are still the one who does the dirty work. And should you fail, there will be no speeches, only the consequences. But naturally, you never fail, and you strictly adhere to the Yakuza code. After a surgical operation in Kobe, a silent raid that successfully recovered territory without a single shot being fired, the higher-ups understood that you were not only obedient, but also remarkably efficient, and that is
doesn't seem like a job I would like to work in.
Precisely why they called you. You're about to learn something that isn't written in any manual. There is an intermediate level that not everyone reaches. It is not advertised, has no official name, and is never mentioned in front of newcomers. Sometimes it's called the Guardian of the Ritual. Other times they simply tell you. They will call you, get ready. It has nothing to do with money or territory. It's a test of identity. A clandestine ceremony where loyalty is measured in flesh, bone, and silence. It all begins with a silent invitation, an unmarked envelope slipped beneath your door. Inside, a date, a time, and one word written in black ink. Hirozumi. That day you won't be wearing a suit. You'll be going alone, without your mobile phone, without your wallet, not knowing how much time you'll be gone. When you arrive, 3 older men are waiting for you, covered in traditional tattoos, dragons, chrysanthemums, Buddhist demons. These aren't just decorative, they use them as a secret language. Every single line was crafted by hand with traditional needles and plant-based ink, in sessions lasting over 100 hours. The ink, known as Narazumi, is prepared using soot, filtered rainwater, and animal blood. It's not something you can simply buy. It's something someone specifically prepares for you if they believe you truly deserve it. So if you are ever invited to participate in this ritual, you can truly consider yourself very fortunate. But it's also a point of no return. You sit in silence as the master tattoo artist sharpens the bamboo needles. No anesthesia, no music, just the Tabori's repetitive tapping on your skin, and the metallic smell that slowly starts to fill the room. For the next 40 hours, your entire back becomes a brutal battlefield. You cannot move, you cannot complain. Every single interruption could ruin the design, and that, my friend, is a grave insult to the family. The motive is not chosen by you, it is chosen by them. If you have been impulsive, they will
So, you're actually forced to get a tattoo at this level. God damn, bro. This the same shit as selling your soul. Shout out, Chad. Be sure I get them subs up, bro. That's crazy, dog. You're forced to sit down with no anesthesia whatsoever, and you're forced to get a tattoo, bro. It's crazy.
Tattoo an Oni on you, a Japanese demon that represents controlled fury. If you have demonstrated patience and vision, perhaps they will grant you a Ryu, the protective dragon. Every single symbol holds a deep meaning, and each one narrates your personal story within the organization, even though no one will ever tell you directly. Once everything is healed, there are no congratulations. You are ordered to report to a small Shinto shrine, owned by the family since before the Second World War. There, the second step is performed, the Kakureta Chikai, or Hidden Oath. It involves memorizing a specific series of codes, phrases, and names that are exclusively used by members of the inner circle. If you forget them or repeat them incorrectly, your name will never be spoken again. That is the punishment, total oblivion, as if you had never existed. And if you do it well, there's no public ceremony, only a subtle change. Now, when you walk into a room, the ones above will look at you for 2 seconds longer than they normally would. No one applauds you, but everyone is aware of it. 1 week after the tattoo, they summon you to a tatami room with only 3 people present. On the table, there are 2 porcelain cups and a bottle of dark sake. This is the Sakazuki, the ultimate and most binding oath of loyalty. You drink the sake there in silence, and your cup remains in the superior's hands. From that moment, if one falls, the other must bear the consequences, or you must cut it if they don't have the courage to do so. From that moment, you watch over the family's rituals. If someone commits a serious mistake, like speaking with authorities, concealing funds, or betraying a promise, you're the one who presents a ceremonial blade for them to pod with their little finger as a sign of atonement. Or you handle it gently if they do not have the courage to act on their own. You are the filter, the invisible wall between those who believe they want to be Yakuza and those who truly understand what that means. Having come this far, you are already a respected and trusted member of those in the upper echelons. But after enduring the pain of the ritual, there remains just one more rank to achieve before you can begin to move among the Yakuza's highest echelons. And this, my friend, is truly the ultimate and final test. You will officially become the sacred code bearer, and your most important new responsibility is simply to remember it all. But this isn't about ordinary memory. You must memorize things that cannot be written down, saved on a mobile device, or even repeated aloud more than once. The actual true names of all the top bosses, the precise addresses of their various safe houses, the passwords needed to gain access to frozen funds held in international banks, the specific identity verification methods employed in Hong Kong, and the exact routes for moving illicit merchandise from Osaka all the way to Vladivostok without ever being detected by radar. There are codes that change every week, and others go back decades. They're all in your head. You are the system's backup. If you are ever caught in a raid and you speak, the family will crumble. That is why, before entrusting you with this grave responsibility, the family makes absolutely certain you have nothing left to lose. No wife, no children, and no personal bank accounts. You become nothing more than a ghost with a face. You gather in rooms that have no windows, surrounded by others just like you. There is no hierarchy.
On top of that, you can't get hoes, but no wife and kids.
Among you, only shared codes. Once a month, you review together the most recent changes, police movements, alliance adjustments, new contacts, and potential betrayals. And if anyone forgets something, there are consequences. Not because someone punishes them, but because they punish themselves.
Boom closed on your car? Good thing you're naked and can submit claims in minutes on the Naked app. Get naked.
Sometimes we feel guilty. We can only do so much.
A lapse can cause an unnecessary death, or worse, an entire operation could collapse. You live in the shadows, but inside you're burning with tension. You can't make mistakes, and you can't show weakness. A code bearer doesn't appear in photographs. If someone asks for you, they change your name. And if you ever decide to leave, you just disappear. And then, the family deals with you. You receive a box with no return address. Inside you find a fake passport with a new name, an address in another country, far away, where no one will ever know you, and a revolver loaded with a single bullet. There's no need for them to explain it to you. It's their way of communicating it. You can embark on a new life, or you can bring this one to an end, but you cannot go back. That is precisely the agreement. That is why the majority do not leave, and because they understand that carrying the code also means shouldering the lives of all the others. They have seen you endure the pain. They have entrusted you with secrets, and now they want to see if you can build something bigger than yourself. Because keeping the code is valuable, but knowing how to use it is what makes you part of the circle that really commands. You begin to notice things that used to go unnoticed. If a veteran leaves his glass full, no one will drink until he takes his first sip. If a younger brother kneels without speaking, it's because he's asking for forgiveness. And if someone gives you a lighter with the cap open, it's because they respect you more than they let on. They won't explain it to you, you simply learn it. And that kind of silent understanding is only truly mastered by those who have already seen the family's true heart. And for that reason, one day, without any ceremony or prior warning, they assign you a brand new role. You become the assistant to the underboss, and that puts you right on the edge of the inner circle. The underboss is the number 2, the second in command of the entire organization. He's the one who leads the war, and you are his general. From the balcony of a towering skyscraper, you gaze at the city lights stretching out far into the distant horizon. You point your finger towards the west and say, "Easy, we'll take that one later." Now you're in charge of an entire region. you have 5 or 6 groups working under your direct command. They bring you the money, you organize it, you clean it, and then you pass it on to the underboss. But your work goes far beyond simply collecting funds. Your main objective is to expand the family's influence. You look at the map, and you spot a port city, currently controlled by a smaller, weaker gang, and you want it for yourself. But this time, you don't send your guys with baseball bats. Now you're much smarter. You send businessmen, you buy the buildings where your rivals operate, you buy up their debts, you cut off their financial oxygen without ever raising your voice. And when they're completely desperate, you then organize a meeting. You sit in a quiet tea house across from the enemy leader. Join us, you tell them, or simply disappear. Most of them join. And that's how you take the territory without firing a single bullet. You drive an imported luxury vehicle. You wear custom suits that cost more than your very first car. And ultimately, you wield significant power. But this also brings a brand new concern. The underboss is watching you very closely, because if you become too popular, or if you start making too much money, he might begin to think that you want his position. And in this particular world, wanting too much is also a serious threat. You have to shine, but not too brightly. You are a strongman, but you still have a master. And after years of constant fighting, enforced silences, and loyalties put to the test, you finally reach a point where you become the second in command. You no longer lead juvenile gangs, or rush out to defend your territory with a metal bar. Now you provide assistance to the men who oversee the younger brothers. From your position above, you now coordinate what others are executing. You've traded in the dark alleys for a discreet office, the baseball bat for a laptop, and the loud shouts for strategically placed silences. At first, you are surprised by what you see, because after years of believing you are in a family, you discover that in reality, you're inside a business, a very structured one, with invisible hierarchies and heavy responsibilities. The problem with Rising is that suddenly they no longer want to scare you. They want to blame you. One morning, you're called to an urgent meeting. No shouting, no threats. Someone has made a serious mistake. Money that doesn't add up, a contact who talked too much, or an operation that left a trace. And you're in the room, not because you did it, but because you were high enough up to take the fall for it. You run the organization's front companies. It could be a trucking firm, a construction business, or a waste management company. To the public eye, everything appears legal. Invoices, staff, schedules. But you know these businesses aren't meant to generate clean profits, but to launder the dirty money that constantly flows beneath the surface. You're also in command of all internal logistical operations. When the principal needs to travel, for example, you meticulously plan out every single last detail. What specific route to take, which armored vehicles to utilize, how many security personnel will accompany him, and exactly where they will be strategically positioned. If everything proceeds without a hitch, then absolutely no one ever notices your presence. But if the boss arrives a minute late, or if anything feels out of place, then it's all your fault. It doesn't matter who failed in practice. You always carry 2 mobile phones in your pocket. One vibrates for company issues, like payments, meetings, and budgets. The other is just for family matters, and you never mix them up. You come to learn that your true worth lies in keeping everything in motion without ever leaving a trace. When you finally reach this particular point, the street fights are well and truly behind you. Your name no longer circulates solely among mere novices, but rather among the men who genuinely move the pieces on the board. Now you're the head of operations, and that means that when politics is finished, they call you. On the table in front of you, there's a detailed map of the city with hand-drawn marks. Beside it, 3 black, freshly cleaned pistols. They've not been used in any crime yet. That is why they're here. A rival family from the west has crossed the line. Yesterday, they killed 2 of your men in an alley. There will be no more warnings. It is time to respond. But you are not the one who pulls the trigger. You are far too valuable for that. You are the one who decides who lives and who disappears. 3 young men appear before you. They don't say a word, and they are quite nervous. You don't speak much yourself.
Thank you all for coming out today. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions.
All right, guys, not everyone knows the difference.
You hand them the weapons and a single photograph. A man eating dinner at a street-side grill on 3rd Street. You simply tell them to go and not return until the job is done. They depart, and you are left waiting. You switch on the police scanner, a small radio device that allows you to monitor the internal police frequencies. A few minutes later, the confirmation arrives over the radio. Shots fired on 3rd Street. All available units respond. You look at your watch, knowing your team has exactly 3 minutes to escape before the police block the area. Then your phone vibrates. It's the leader of the group. "We're trapped," they whisper to you. A patrol car blocks the bridge, and you have to make a decision in an instant. You scan the map, quickly reviewing all possible escape routes. You're playing a game of chess with real human lives. "Abandon the car," he orders without hesitation. "Run through the subway tunnel. A clean car will be waiting for them on the other side." You hang up, and then you call another group. You instruct them to start a brawl at a bar on the far side of the city. The diversion works. Patrols pivot towards the new incident. The road clears, and your team escapes. You don't sleep for 3 days. Black coffee, cigarette after cigarette. You coordinate more attacks. You reclaim corners block by block. There's no room for error. If a soldier is captured, you let him rot in silence, for that protects the others. Until the news you've been waiting for finally arrives, the rival boss has fled the city. The war is over, and this time you have won. But at this level, your most important function isn't to lead, but to protect. When the stakes are this high, the police don't look for the soldiers. They look for the father. And you are the wall that stands between them and the supreme leader. If proof emerges, you step up. If there's a crime, you take the blame. If a culprit is needed, it's you. You go to trial, you go to prison. 10 years if necessary. And you don't doubt it. It is your duty. Everyone knows that you are the heir. You have money, power, and absolute respect. But you're not yet at the very top. You are just one step away from the throne. And that is the most dangerous place of all. The supreme Yakuza. 20 men are kneeling before you, their heads bowed low, their gaze is fixed firmly on the tatami mats.
Bro got them shades on, he got the dress on, he got them black leather on.
Nobody moves. You don't need to say your name. Everyone already knows it. You are the father, the Oyabun, the ultimate voice, the very face that no one must ever defy. You no longer handle the money, nor do you sign any contracts, nor issue any direct threats. Between you and the crime, there are layers upon layers of men who would fall without hesitation before the slightest risk even touches you. Your name doesn't appear on any official record, your voice is never recorded, and your presence needs no announcement. But it's enough for you to whisper an order to your second-in-command, and 3 days later someone will vanish without a trace. You convene with the leaders of the other powerful families. Upon a silent table, the entire country is spread out, meticulously drawn on a map. The various zones of influence are negotiated as if they were mere slices of a cake. And though no one dares to say it openly, it is you who ultimately decides who will prosper and who will slowly begin to suffocate, starting tomorrow. Once a year, all the regional bosses secretly travel to a hidden ryokan in the mountains. There, the Shokai no Kage, the Assembly of Shadows, is held. It is forbidden to carry cell phones, weapons, or escorts. Reports are presented on paper, reviewed without comment, and then burned in front of everyone as a symbol of loyalty and oblivion. You preside over that meeting in silence, because true leaders impose their will without ever raising their voice. But from the height of your throne, you only see enemies. Your best ally fantasizes about taking your place. Your subordinates learn to smile, all the while plotting their opportune moment. And the police have created an entire division dedicated exclusively to you. They intercept your calls, they follow your cars, they photograph your home, they monitor your contacts, and they surround you as if you were a fortified city. You know this. That's why you no longer go out. You don't visit supermarkets, you don't have a social life. You reside in an isolated mansion, encircled by towering walls, thermal cameras, motion sensors, and multiple layers of security. No one approaches you without passing through numerous filters. Your chef was thoroughly investigated. Your doctor was approved by a vote. And yet, you don't repeat meals 2 days straight, nor sleep in the same room 2 nights straight. You've survived internal wars, betrayals, and purges. You were forced to smile at the son of the man you yourself had ordered erased from existence. And while everyone was celebrating your ascent, you understood that being the supreme leader is a heavy burden. Everyone obeys you without question, but even at this level, there are decisions you cannot make alone. And that is why, once every 2 weeks, you gather with your inner council, 5 senior men, each with at least 30 years of service within the organization, and every single one of them responsible for a crucial part of the empire. One manages the distribution routes, another handles all political contacts, one oversees the front companies operating abroad, another controls the flow of money from the casinos, and the last one hardly ever speaks, he just observes. No one casts a vote, no one is allowed to interrupt. They speak in turns and you listen carefully, and in the end, you make the final decision. In that room, where no one else is permitted to enter, it's the only space where you can truly let your guard down for a few minutes. Because in there, you are not a god. You are a man surrounded by history, ambition, and potential betrayal. Once years ago, one of the counselors didn't show up for a meeting. 3 days later, his car was discovered in a river, and the driver's seat was completely empty. No one asked any questions. It was simply accepted that he had crossed the line. You are one of the most powerful men in the entire nation, and simultaneously, most heavily scrutinized. You know there's no true retreat from this life, that retirement simply does not exist for you, that the only ones who have ever truly abandoned this throne did so either in handcuffs, or covered in blood, or placed inside a coffin. Those below covet your status, power, and women, and somehow that reminds you of your beginnings as a Koban. But a time comes when neither money, respect, nor power can bring you peace. After so many years making decisions others wouldn't even dare to imagine, something inside you runs out, and you decide to heed that spark of freedom you've always carried within. One morning, without warning, you hand in your phones, close your planner, and you simply leave. You vanish completely off the map. You settle into an old house in the mountains, surrounded by thick fog and absolute silence. There, far from the towering skyscrapers and the ever-present cameras, you train the younger generation. You teach them about loyalty, strategy, and patience. You teach them that true power isn't shouted, it's sustained. Sometimes old leaders send emissaries. They offer you to return, but you just smile and you vanish completely off the map. You settle into an old house in the mountains, surrounded by thick fog and absolute silence. There, far from the towering skyscrapers and the ever-present cameras, you train the younger generation. You teach them about loyalty, strategy, and patience. You teach them that true power isn't shouted, it's sustained. Sometimes old leaders send emissaries. They offer you to return, but you just smile and don't reply, because now you understand something you couldn't see before. The true leader is the one who no longer needs to command.
That's a dope way to end it. Pedophiles, what's in their head? What? What's going on? They check out mood. Where's that video? What's going on in their head?
This is Jeffrey Epstein, billionaire, friend of presidents and Hollywood stars, owner of a private island and jet. Not life, but a dream full of wealth and power. But the whole world recognized his name not because of his accomplishments, but because of his crimes, in which, according to some documents, even the wealthiest and most influential people in the world are involved. Statistically, 1 in 5 children in the world experience inappropriate adult behavior. There are almost certainly victims in your environment, and possibly even the perpetrators themselves. And most of them look like ordinary people, and some of them are even your idols or leaders. In the last video, we talked about how orientation is formed in the womb. And here comes the awkward question. If homosexuality is an innate feature of the brain, does this mean that attraction to children is also a kind of orientation? Today we will discuss the most taboo topic in psychology. Where does this deviation come from, and is it actually one? Why and how exactly is their brain different from ours? Is it possible to recognize a dangerous person before the irreparable happens? And most importantly, can it be cured? Imagine that a person has a switch for sexual interest in their head. Most have it set up for adults, well, or people their own age. This switch usually matures with us. But there are those who have this switch stuck at the very beginning. Why? This has related concepts. Hebephilia, attraction to children at the beginning of puberty, and ephebophilia, to adolescents whose puberty is almost complete. Modern psychiatry separates these two definitions from the standard disorder.
Bro, what the fuck, bro? This video gonna have me tripping out. What?
Concepts. Hebephilia, attraction to children at the beginning of puberty. and ephebophilia, to adolescents whose puberty is almost complete. Modern psychiatry separates these two definitions from the standard disorder, and ephebophilia is not considered an official diagnosis at all because we are already talking about an almost adult. But why the nuance at all? Because not every attraction to younger people is a diagnosis. And even a diagnosis doesn't always cause a crime, and vice versa. Many people convicted of molestation have no pathology whatsoever. After all, more often than not, it's about character and weaknesses, about fear of equal relationships, about the need to dominate, about the desire to feel stronger, about insecurity. And people younger than you are the easiest target. So when you see someone who is fundamentally looking much younger, it's usually not about looking for youthful beauty or some kind of pathology. Often it's about his inner insecurity and trying to compensate for it through control and authority over his partner. And the greater this insecurity, the greater its compensation. But the real pathology is something else entirely. It's not about midlife crisis, self-gratification, and weird tastes. It's about the attraction to those who fundamentally do not understand what is happening, cannot give consent, and always end up as victims. In the language of psychiatry, pedophilic attraction refers to a persistent and recurrent sexual interest in children who have not yet even begun the process of puberty. Not teenagers, but prepubescent children. And it's not just the terms that matter. It's about how the brain itself is set up. Normally, he automatically notes, this is a potential partner. And this is a child that needs to be protected. In healthy people, this filter clearly separates these categories, but in people with pedophilic attraction, the boundary is shifted. The childlike appearance fails to pass this filter and is mistakenly categorized as sexually significant cues. And according to research, it starts much earlier than a person even realizes what sex is. There are several recurring details seen in neurobiology papers. On average, such people have lower intelligence scores on IQ tests, and often the stupider the pedophile, the younger his victim. They are more likely to have minor congenital features and developmental abnormalities. And MRIs find critical differences. They have reduced gray matter in the orbitofrontal cortex, the area responsible for self-control. And the brain connections associated with sexual arousal are also disrupted. The brain is designed so that some people use others, while others use the system. Banks and large companies waste tens of billions of rubles every year to attract new customers. Card bonuses, sign-up gifts, cash promotions, and you can make very good money on all of this, especially on New Year's Eve. By registering on a popular crypto exchange, you can earn $20 in just a few minutes or open a bank card and receive bonus rubles. But such schemes are hard to find, and if you don't know what to do, you won't earn anything. That's what the Abuzishe channel is for. For the 5th year, the guys have been landing the most lucrative offers, testing them out themselves, and
sometimes I just wonder about the human psychology and how certain people think and how certain people actually see life, dog. So
sharing them for free. In October alone, their subscribers can make money from them. Where do these kinds of glitches in the head even come from? There is no one simple reason. But if you collect the data, a set of risk factors emerges. Complications of pregnancy, prematurity, oxygen deprivation during labor, severe infections, and even head trauma, which sometimes causes the system to break down in adulthood. The most famous case was described in 2003. A 40-year-old teacher and happy husband suddenly became interested in forbidden content. When he was referred for an MRI, they found a tumor in the orbitofrontal cortex, which is responsible for control. The tumor was removed and the deviant behavior disappeared. But a year later, the tumor came back, and with it, the symptoms. The same thing can happen due to strokes, Parkinson's disease, dementia, and other conditions that destroy the brain. While such examples are rare, they show one important thing. Pedophilia is a malfunction in the brain. But biology is only half the story. In many criminal cases and studies, familiar patterns pop up. Emotionally cold parents, violence in the family, a lack of healthy close relationships, and even chronic loneliness. There is even a persistent myth. Those who survive childhood abuse will become abusers themselves. But that's not entirely true. Most people with traumatic childhoods don't become pedophiles and maniacs by standard. It's just that if there are already biological disorders, the external environment will simply be the final catalyst. One of the creepiest examples is the story of Anatoly Slivko. He ran a hiking club in which he organized exciting nature hikes for children. Dozens of parents trusted him with their children, seeing him as a caring and good teacher. However, The story of a seemingly ordinary counselor ended with his death penalty in 1989 for the murder of 7 innocent children. For years, he selected the boys he liked the most. The chosen ones were offered to participate in individual trials in which he drove them to unconsciousness. And then he acted out his fantasies, capturing them in photos and on film, keeping these as trophies. And sometimes, he would just kill them. He is remembered as a counselor ripper, as one of the most notorious serial killers in the history of the USSR. He was born in 1938, but was strangled by the umbilical cord at birth, suffering brain damage. His childhood was wartime, facing violence and executions before his eyes. In
I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to laugh, but dog, that umbilical cord should have just strangled that boy.
1961, he witnessed a traffic accident when a drunk motorcyclist hit a column of young pioneers, killing a boy right in front of his eyes. Anatoly said that it was this scene that suddenly caused him a strong sexual arousal and tied his sexuality to the image of a dying boy in a pioneer uniform. He chose his victims using the same principle. He was looking for children like that.
Bro, what? This is creepy.
Dead boy. This is called imprinting, when the brain seems to stamp a very intense situation into memory and stick a specific reaction to it, especially when the brain and psyche are already damaged and vulnerable the most. Another well-known example is Chikatilo, a man whose childhood was spent in war, witnessing multiple traumatic episodes of violence and murder, and who grew up as an outcast from childhood, from his surroundings at school to his family. Its victims were not only children, but all vulnerable groups of people, thanks to which he was able to implement scenarios of sadism and control, compensating for his worthlessness in which he was raised through absolute power over a defenseless victim. Some of his case reviews mention that he had focal lesions in his prefrontal cortex, which was also mentioned by the psychiatrists who examined him, attributing it to brain damage before he was born. I mean, it may well be the same story here. The symbiosis of a vulnerable broken brain with a negative external environment, even though to everyone he was an ordinary family man and a good teacher at school, but who was eventually accused and executed for at least 52 murders. And if in Slivko's case the parents themselves put their children in good hands, in Chikatilo's case, the system simply refused to believe that a person like that could even exist. And because of that, it allowed him to keep acting for years. But it's important to realize Slivko and Chikatilo are the tip of the iceberg, the most vivid movie incidents that documentaries are made about. Most people with pedophilic attraction don't become serial killers, and most crimes against children don't look like a horror movie. In reality, it's much quieter, and in most cases, it's just ignored. Violence is more often disguised as friendship, care, and attention, what psychologists call grooming. And it's not some secret ritual, but a very gradual trust training. It's as if the adult is scanning the environment and looking for the most vulnerable child. Someone who has problems at home, who feels left out, who isn't listened to by adults. First, he becomes the kind of adult who understands, gives special gifts, attention, privileges. And over time, the boundaries move millimeter by millimeter, from innocent conversations to actions that the child doesn't even know how to name yet. And if before there were circles, camps, and schools, now everything is much easier and more dangerous thanks to the internet. In games, chat rooms, and social networks, everything follows a familiar pattern. First attention and understanding, then moving to action. And this is where it's important to break one stereotype. When we hear the word pedophile, we automatically think of a man. But women commit these crimes too. They're just less likely to be noticed. Because a woman's care for a child is seen as something natural, not suspicious. A nanny, a teacher, an older friend. No one sees a threat where they don't expect it. That's why such cases more often remain in the shadows and don't even make it to the investigation. And news stories like a teacher had sex with her student usually get flooded with thrilled comments like, "What a legend, that guy really got lucky." So society needs to be mindful of the norms, and parents need to be especially mindful of who a child is surrounded by both in life and online. And who is he surrounded by at home? Loving parents or strict wardens? And yes, if you need support that is difficult to get from outside, I would like to remind you that we have a free AI bot for psychological support. It won't replace a real specialist.
Zoophilia. What is that?
This is why pedophilia is usually ranked with other types of paraphilias rather than orientations. For example, zoophilia, because in a way, it is the same thing. At the beginning of the video, we already talked about the internal filter that marks who our potential partner is. In a healthy brain, this filter works on several parameters at once: age, species, and human condition. Normally, only adults of our species pass through this filter. In pedophilia, it is primarily the filter of age that breaks down. A child's appearance is mistakenly put in the same basket where adults are, and with zoophilia, the filter of the species breaks. For some reason, the brain starts perceiving the animal as a sexually significant stimulus. Though all these stories look different on the outside, but at the level of principle, it is the same type of breakdown. A system that was supposed to be set up for one thing breaks down for one reason or another. And zoophilia can also be acquired from injuries and illnesses. Overall, it's basically a matter of luck, depending on which filter happens to break first. Therefore, oddly enough, the conclusion here is both very simple and obvious, and very unpleasant. Yes, pedophilia and other paraphilias are not just dirty fantasies, but real mental and brain disorders, often embedded before birth and exacerbated by the environment. Yes, a person does not choose which filter they get, and in its own way, it evokes compassion, especially to those who will never commit a crime. But it's still important to remember that each of us is fully responsible for our actions. And the moment that inner defect turns into a real act toward a child, it's no longer about biology. It's about a crime. Pedophilia is about the vulnerable who do not understand what is happening and cannot say no. There are no gray areas here, no matter how much talk there is about the brain, hormones, and childhood trauma. Any move from fantasy to action towards a child is always abuse and always the destruction of someone else's life. And our task as a society here is pretty down to earth. Not to
So these people are actually sick in their head. Why every billionaire is... This one looks also interesting.
Let Amplify take you where ordinary doesn't dare go.
Eyeball. For every eyeball, there's a quick fix.
You've been told billionaires are geniuses who create jobs and innovate.
Do billionaires create jobs? The answer is no.
They make people happy and they're inspirational. They're something to aspire to. But once you peel back the PR, you find that every single one is some sort of predator in a philanthropic mask. See, when you're a billionaire, you can do what you want. And that is a problem. There are obviously billionaires who are less than nice, to say the least, whether it's harvesting your private data, harvesting your piss in bottles, wait, nope, forcing employees to piss in bottles rather than take a bathroom break, union busting, wage theft, full-on tax evasion, owning and operating special private islands. That seems relevant right now. Or pretty much anything else you can think of. Not great. But what about the goody two-shoes, like the ones who are just good investors, or singers turned billionaires, or smart people who made software that changed the world? How are they evil? Well, they're all running the same scam, just not maybe as blatantly as others. So, let's expose what makes every billionaire evil by definition so that people can stop defending them and licking the mud off of their boots on the interwebs. And my comment section. See, in my last video, I received a bunch of awesome comments. Thanks for that. And then there were some other people who really liked what I had to say up until I called out all billionaires as evil. They felt quite the opposite. So are billionaires the good guys or the bad guys? As usual, when it comes to money, it's complicated. But by the end of this video, I'll unpack all of this for you so that you have a better understanding of how every billionaire is evil. You'll learn how billionaires game the system to amass huge fortunes and then manage to keep most of it for themselves, all while positioning themselves as generous philanthropists, which convinces people that they're great, inspiring people, and how dare I call them evil? Chapter 1. While some might have worked hard to get where they are, and often have done at least some good here and there, it's impossible to get to a net worth of over $1 billion without exploitation, backstabbing, aggressively taking out competitors, and other evil doings. And many times the ones suffering at their hands are you. Yeah, you watching the video right now, even if you're not an overworked, underpaid Amazon worker or something like that. But more on that in a bit. In order to understand why billionaires are evil and not just bad people, we need to know the difference between the terms bad and evil, of course. I mean, that's where we're starting, so let's do it. Bad generally describes something unpleasant, disappointing, or lacking in quality, which is, yeah, billionaires. The word evil, on the other hand, suggests a malicious or wicked intention, often causing significant harm or suffering. What? You don't think billionaires have malicious intentions? You don't think billionaires cause significant harm and suffering? Really? Oh, sweet summer child. That's so cute. Every billionaire, without exception, is built on a mountain of exploitation, lies, and often theft and human suffering. If you still don't think so by the end of this video, let me know in the comments, but back up your claims this time with facts. Let's get this straight. Philanthropy can be good on a small scale-ish, kinda, but most of the time, it just isn't, and it shouldn't even be needed in the first place. And this is related to taxes, so hold on for a moment. The laws and policies that structure charitable giving and philanthropy in the world today favor the interests of wealthy individuals rather than those who are actually in need. Philanthropy can have an important effect on society, but it doesn't do very much to solve the root cause of any of the problems that it's trying to solve. In his book, Just Giving: Why Philanthropy is Failing Democracy and How It Can Do Better, Rob Reich states, while a soup kitchen can feed the hungry, a church can shelter the homeless, and a nonprofit can teach children how to read, without changes in public policy, problems like hunger, homelessness, and illiteracy will continue to exist. So the fact that billionaires get good PR for having avoided taxes by selectively and slowly sharing their wealth with organizations through tax-deductible donations to those who they deem to be a good fit for their public perception is a problem in plain sight. Why? Because it's not up to single individuals to decide who gets what. Because that's what the taxes and government agencies
Let's look for another video to like watch it. Let's look for another video to watch. Let's see what we have here, bro. fuck? There's not an interesting video to watch. What's happening? Whoa, whoa, living large. Hey, and my body getting secret. So I sell his soul to the devil. Why would you sell your soul to the devil, mate? I'm too hard for the fucking radio. Mental disorders. Let's tap into this video.
Traffic jam and you're the problem? Good thing you're naked and can submit claims in minutes on the Naked app. Get naked.
Depression. Depression is a mental disorder that drains the color out of life. It affects how your brain produces and uses chemicals like serotonin and dopamine, the messengers that help you feel pleasure, motivation, and connection. When these systems malfunction, everything becomes harder. You wake up exhausted even after sleeping for 10 hours. Food tastes like nothing. Hobbies that once excited you now feel pointless. Your brain tells you that nothing will ever get better, and you believe it because depression doesn't feel like sadness. It feels like emptiness. Sadness has a reason, a story, a cause. Depression just exists, heavy and constant, even when your life looks fine from the outside. People say, just think positive, or go for a walk, but depression isn't a bad mood you can shake off. It's your brain physically struggling to generate the chemicals that make herring possible. Thoughts slow down, decisions become overwhelming, and getting out of bed can feel like climbing a mountain. You might sleep all day or lie awake all night. You withdraw from friends not because you want to, but because pretending to be okay takes energy you don't have. Over time, untreated depression reshapes how you see yourself and the world. It convinces you that this numbness is who you really are, that joy was always temporary, that hope is just a lie people tell themselves. The disorder doesn't...
And depression has to be one of the heaviest ones. I've never been depressed, and I just thank God I've never been to that point in my life, but I've had like spells where I was like super sad, but I've never been like depressed. Nah, I've never been that.
Announce itself loudly. It whispers quietly until you forget what feeling alive used to be like. Generalized anxiety disorder. Generalized anxiety disorder turns normal worry into a constant alarm system that never shuts off. Your brain treats everyday situations like emergencies, flooding your body with stress hormones even when there's no real danger. Everyone worries sometimes about tests or money or relationships, but anxiety disorder makes you worry about everything, all the time. Even things that haven't happened yet and probably never will. You lie awake imagining disasters. You replay conversations, convinced you said something wrong. Your mind jumps from one fear to the next, building worst-case scenarios out of nothing. Physically, your body stays tense. Your shoulders ache, your stomach hurts, and your heart races for no clear reason. You feel exhausted because your nervous system thinks it's protecting you from threats that don't exist. Simple decisions become overwhelming because every choice feels like it could lead to catastrophe. Should you send that text? What if they misunderstand? What if they get angry? The disorder steals your ability to relax because your brain has forgotten how to tell the difference between actual danger and imagined problems. People tell you to calm down, to stop overthinking, but that's like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk normally. Over time, the constant tension wears you down. You start avoiding situations that trigger worry, which only makes the world feel smaller and more threatening. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is a condition where your brain struggles to regulate focus, impulses, and energy. The part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, which controls planning and self-control, develops more slowly or works differently. This means you want to pay attention, you want to sit still, you want to finish tasks, but your brain won't cooperate. People think ADHD means you can't focus on anything, but that's wrong. You can hyper-focus on things that interest you for hours, losing track of time completely. The problem is you can't choose what gets your attention. Boring tasks feel physically painful to start. Your mind wanders during conversations, even when you care about...
Oh shit. I have a friend who has like a similar problem, and he told me about it. Now that I'm actually learning more about it, I kind of have another understanding of, oh, this is what he's actually going through. Because yeah, you can focus on anything that's like, you know, but boring shit, dog, it's hard.
About the person talking. You forget appointments, lose your keys, and leave projects half finished. Not because you're lazy, but because your brain doesn't produce enough dopamine to make follow-through feel rewarding. Impulsivity makes you interrupt people, buy things without thinking, or say things you instantly regret. You might fidget constantly, tap your foot, or feel restless in your own skin. Time feels slippery. You underestimate how long things take, then panic when deadlines appear suddenly. At school or work, you're called careless, unmotivated, or ditzy, but inside you're trying harder than anyone realizes. The exhausting part is knowing what you need to do while watching yourself fail to do it anyway. ADHD creates a gap between intention and action that willpower alone can't bridge. Obsessive-compulsive disorder. Obsessive-compulsive disorder traps your mind in a loop of intrusive thoughts and desperate rituals. Your brain gets stuck on a fear, an image, or a terrible what-if scenario, and it won't let go. These are called obsessions, unwanted thoughts that invade your mind even when you try to push them away. Maybe you're terrified of germs spreading disease, or convinced you left the stove on and your house will burn down, or haunted by violent images that horrify you. The thoughts feel so real, so urgent, that your brain demands you do something to make them stop. That's where compulsions come in. You wash your hands until they crack and bleed. You check the door locks 15 times before leaving. You count, tap, arrange objects in perfect order, or repeat phrases silently. These rituals feel like the only way to prevent disaster, but the relief lasts seconds before the anxiety returns and demands you do it again. OCD convinces you that your thoughts have power, that thinking something bad makes it more likely to happen unless you perform the right action. People joke about being so OCD when they like things organized, but real OCD is torture. You know the rituals are irrational. You know checking the stove 10 times makes no logical sense, but the fear is so overwhelming that you can't stop yourself. Hours disappear into compulsions. Your hand.
When you smoke weed, though, you also get OCD. Like you start getting stuck in one state.
Hands hurt. Your mind exhausts itself, and the disorder tightens its grip. OCD doesn't make you careful or neat. It makes you a prisoner to thoughts you never wanted in the first place. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder happens when your brain gets stuck in survival mode after experiencing something terrifying. A car crash, violence, abuse, war, or any event where you felt your life was in danger can rewire how your brain processes fear and safety. Normally, after something scary ends, your nervous system calms down and files the memory away. With PTSD, that system breaks. Your brain keeps replaying the trauma as if it's still happening right now. Flashbacks aren't like normal memories where you picture the past. They're vivid, physical re-experiences. A smell, a sound, or a random sight can transport you back instantly. Your heart pounds, your breathing quickens, and for those seconds or minutes, you genuinely believe you're in danger again. Nightmares invade your sleep, jolting you awake in terror. You become hypervigilant, constantly scanning for threats, unable to relax even in safe places. Loud noises make you jump. Crowds feel suffocating. You avoid anything that reminds you of the trauma, which sometimes means avoiding entire parts of your life. Emotions become unpredictable. Anger erupts over small things. You feel numb and disconnected, even from people you love. Concentration disappears because your brain is too busy watching for danger to focus on anything else. PTSD makes you feel broken, like the trauma stole who you used to be. Your brain is trying to protect you, but the alarm system won't turn off. You're living in the aftermath while your mind keeps dragging you back to the worst moment. Bipolar disorder. Bipolar disorder sends your brain swinging between extreme emotional states that you can't control. There are two poles, mania and depression, and you cycle between them in patterns that can last days, weeks, or months. During a manic episode, your brain floods with energy and confidence that feels almost superhuman. You sleep 2 hours and wake up buzzing with ideas. You talk fast, jump between thoughts, and feel like you can accomplish anything. Risky decisions suddenly seem brilliant. You might spend money you don't have, start 5 projects at once, or believe you've discovered something world-changing. Colors seem brighter, connections feel profound, and sitting still becomes impossible. But mania burns too hot. Your thoughts race faster than you can follow them. Irritability spikes when people can't keep up with you. Sometimes the energy tips into paranoia or delusions where reality blurs. Then the crash comes. The manic high collapses into depressive lows, where all that energy drains away completely. You can barely get out of bed. Everything that felt possible now feels pointless. The contrast makes the depression even heavier because you remember what having energy felt like. Bipolar disorder exhausts you with its unpredictability. You never know which version of yourself will show up tomorrow. Relationships suffer because people can't keep up with the shifts. Plans fall apart during depressive episodes. Consequences from manic decisions haunt you later. This isn't having mood swings or changing your mind. Your brain chemistry swings between extremes without asking permission, and you're just trying to hold on through the ride. Panic disorder. Panic disorder makes your body sound a false alarm that feels like dying. Your brain's fear center, the amygdala, misfires and triggers a full survival response, even though there's no actual danger. A panic attack hits suddenly, often without warning. Your heart starts pounding so hard you're convinced it will explode. Your chest tightens, making it feel impossible to breathe. Sweat pours down your back, your hands go numb, and dizziness makes the room spin. You're certain something catastrophic is happening. Heart attack, stroke, loss of control, death. Every physical sensation feeds the terror, creating a feedback loop where fear makes symptoms worse and symptoms make fear stronger. The attack peaks within 10 minutes, then slowly fades, leaving you drained and shaken. But the real trap isn't the attack itself. After your first one, you develop a new fear, the fear of having another panic attack. You start avoiding places where you panicked before, grocery stores, highways, crowded rooms. You worry constantly about when the next attack will strike, which ironically makes attacks more likely because anxiety primes your body for panic. Your world shrinks as you eliminate situations where escape feels difficult. Some people stop leaving their house entirely. Panic disorder convinces you that your body is dangerous and unreliable. You're not afraid of the world anymore. You're afraid of yourself, of what your own nervous system might do without permission. The disorder doesn't just steal moments, it steals your sense of safety in your own skin. Social anxiety disorder. Social anxiety disorder transforms everyday interactions into performances where you're convinced you'll fail. Your brain treats social situations like threats, flooding your body with fear responses meant for actual danger. Walking into a room full of people feels like stepping onto a stage where everyone is watching, judging, waiting for you to mess up. Before you even speak, your mind floods with worst-case scenarios. What if you say something stupid? What if they think you're boring? What if your voice shakes or your face turns red? The fear becomes so intense that your body reacts physically. Your heart races, your hands tremble, sweat soaks through your shirt, and your voice comes out wrong, too quiet or too shaky. You're so focused on monitoring yourself that you can't think clearly, which makes you stumble over words, forget what you were saying, or go completely blank. After the interaction ends, your brain replays every moment, magnifying tiny mistakes into disasters. You convince yourself that everyone noticed, that they're talking about how awkward you were, that you've ruined their opinion of you forever. This isn't shyness or introversion. Shy people might feel nervous but can push through. Social anxiety hijacks your entire system, making escape feel like the only option. You start avoiding parties, presentations, phone calls, even necessary conversations. Opportunities disappear because the fear of judgment outweighs everything else. The disorder isolates you while convincing you that isolation is safer than risking humiliation. You're not antisocial, you're terrified of being seen. Eating disorders. Eating disorders hijack your relationship with food and twist it into a method of control. Anorexia restricts eating to dangerous levels, driven by an intense fear of gaining weight and a distorted view of your own body. You look in the mirror and see someone overweight even when you're dangerously thin. Every calorie becomes an enemy. Eating feels like failure, and hunger feels like success. Your brain convinces you that controlling food is the one thing you can manage when everything else feels chaotic. Bulimia creates a different cycle. You eat large amounts in secret, feeling out of control, then purge through vomiting or excessive exercise to undo it. The shame is overwhelming, but the pattern repeats because the disorder promises relief that never actually comes. Both conditions destroy your body slowly. Your heart weakens, your bones become brittle, your hair falls out, and your organs struggle to function. But the physical damage hides behind the mental trap. Eating disorders aren't really about food or weight. They're about control.
Stand a chance to win your share of 400,000 Rand in prizes with Stimorol. T's and C's apply.
Ready to start working with your skin? Try the new Nivea Clear Up morning routine. With
perfectionism, and trying to shrink yourself when the world feels too big. The disorder speaks in your own voice, disguising itself as logic and willpower. It tells you that eating is weakness, that thinness equals worth, that you're never small enough. Friends and family beg you to eat, but you can't just start because the disorder has convinced you that letting go means losing yourself. Recovery feels like giving up the only thing protecting you, even though that protection is killing you. Borderline personality disorder. Borderline personality disorder makes your emotions feel like a storm you can't escape. escape. Your brain struggles to regulate feelings, so emotions that others experience as waves hit you like tsunamis. Something small, a canceled plan or an unanswered text, can send you spiraling into despair or rage within seconds. You feel everything at maximum intensity with almost no middle ground. Relationships become battlegrounds because you're terrified of abandonment. You cling desperately to people, then push them away when the fear of losing them becomes unbearable. One moment someone is perfect, the next they're terrible, and you can't hold both truths at once. This black and white thinking extends to yourself too. You're either worthless or special, never just human. Your sense of identity shifts constantly. You mirror whoever you're with because you're not sure who you actually are underneath. Impulsivity strikes without warning. You might quit jobs suddenly, spend recklessly, drive dangerously, or lash out verbally just to release the pressure building inside. Self-harm sometimes becomes a way to feel something concrete when emotions become too abstract and overwhelming. People call you dramatic, manipulative, or unstable, but inside you're drowning. Every interaction feels life or death because your emotional system lacks the buffer that helps others stay balanced. You're not trying to cause chaos. Your brain genuinely experiences normal situations as crises. The exhaustion comes from living in constant emotional emergency mode, while everyone around you wonders why you can't just calm down. You want stability desperately, but your own mind keeps pulling the ground out from under you. Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia fractures how your brain processes reality. Neurotransmitters like dopamine misfire, causing your mind to create experiences that aren't actually happening while struggling to organize thoughts that are real. The disorder has two categories of symptoms. Positive symptoms add things that shouldn't be there. Hallucinations make you hear voices commenting on your actions, criticizing you, or giving commands. You might see people who don't exist, or feel sensations on your skin that have no source. Delusions convince you of false beliefs that feel absolutely true. You might think the government is tracking you, that strangers are plotting against you, or that you have special powers. These aren't choices or imagination. Your brain genuinely perceives them as real. Negative symptoms subtract things that should be there. Emotions flatten until you can't feel joy or express feelings naturally. Motivation disappears, making basic tasks like showering or eating feel impossible. Speech becomes disorganized, jumping between unrelated topics, or you might stop talking altogether because forming coherent sentences requires energy you don't have. Movies show schizophrenia as violent and dangerous, but most people with this disorder are more likely to be victims than threats. The real danger is internal, the confusion and terror of not knowing what's real. You can't trust your own perceptions. Voices might tell you terrible things about yourself. Paranoia makes everyone feel like an enemy. Treatment helps many people manage symptoms, but schizophrenia remains one of the most misunderstood and stigmatized conditions, turning a medical disorder into a cultural nightmare. Dissociative identity disorder. Dissociative identity disorder fragments a person's identity into separate parts as a survival response to severe childhood trauma. When a child experiences abuse so overwhelming that their mind can't process it, the brain protects itself by compartmentalizing. Different identity states, often called alters, develop to hold specific memories, emotions, or roles that the main consciousness couldn't handle. These aren't imaginary friends or acting. They're distinct parts of one person's psyche. They can have different ages, genders, memories, and ways of seeing the world. Switching between alters can happen without warning. You might lose time, finding yourself in places with no memory of how you got there. Friends mention conversations you don't remember having. Your handwriting changes, your preferences shift, and suddenly you're holding opinions or skills you didn't know you had. Some alters protect by holding anger, others comfort by staying childlike, and some contain the traumatic memories so the main identity can function day to day. Movies portray this disorder as dangerous or supernatural, but the reality is far more painful. You're not multiple people. You're one person whose mind shattered under pressure too great for a child to bear. The disorder creates internal chaos where different parts might conflict, cooperate, or remain unaware of each other. Rebuilding a coherent sense of self requires years of therapy. The fragmentation that once protected you now makes daily life feel like navigating without a map, never fully sure who's in control or what memories are hiding just beneath the surface.
That's sad, man. That is so sad, man. I feel his pain. Money shona be Chevin. All of my eyes stay dead. This looks interesting. Let's tap in.
Today we look at the question of success. Okay? The question is, who succeeds and why? Okay, so we've done a lot of research, and we've discovered that people who succeed for certain reasons. So there is a Columbia psychologist named Walter Mischel, and he devised a very famous experiment called the marshmallow test.
Manish on a beat, Shabbat. All of my eyes stay there. Shout out you guys. Be sure I get them subs up. It's your boy FYIEM Team 1496. Be sure y'all tap in. New album dropping Friday. Got a performance, a live stream performance sets on Thursday. So be sure y'all tap in, chat. Be sure y'all tap in. We out here. I'm looking for at least one more video to watch. Then we'll call it a day, bro. I'm looking for at least one more videos. Cannibal, what's in their head? Food. Oh, what the fuck is this now? Whoa, living large. Yeah.
Body photographing the entire process. He was caught while trying to dispose of the remains, but he did not go to prison. French psychiatrists declared Sagawa insane, and so he was sent to a psychiatric clinic. And 3 years later, thanks to his rich and influential father, he was deported to Japan. Back home, Japanese doctors examined Sagawa and ruled that he was completely sane. But because the case had been closed in France in 1986, he simply walked free, and the cannibal killer became a celebrity. Sagawa wrote more than 20 books, including detailed memoirs of his murder, which became bestsellers. He appeared on TV talk shows and acted in films, earning huge fees. He even worked for the Japanese magazine Spa, where he wrote a restaurant critic column. He lived like a rock star, spent enormous sums on parties and escorts, dined in the capital's most expensive restaurants, and lived in a luxury apartment in Tokyo. And all of that because of his crime. Sagawa himself died in poverty in 2022, having burned through all the millions he earned by the 2000s and spent the last 9 years of his life confined to a wheelchair. But through all that time, he never felt regret and never repented. On the contrary, he proudly called himself the godfather of cannibalism and considered his act the greatest achievement of his life.
Yeah, I'm too hot for the fucking radio. Hey. The evil business of the aviates. And this shit has been collecting aviates have been taking away.
The new Honor 600 series. 200 megapixel ultra clear.
You probably know Aviator as that betting game where Red Plane promises to turn you into a millionaire. But what you don't know is that Aviator has become Africa's most devastating digital epidemic, leaving behind a trail of bankruptcies, suicides, and shattered dreams. Its primary function is simple: extract money from desperate young men, promise joy but leave you broke, bitter, and blaming everyone but yourself, just like Caliph Cairo. Millions of Kenyans think that Aviator is the ticket out of poverty, when in reality, it's a psychological slot machine that was literally designed to drain their wallets. What if there was an equation to this game? A science behind how Aviator actually works? What if I told you there's a reason you'll never achieve those dreams of paying off your debts or traveling around the world? Would you call me a liar? By the end of this video, you will understand the side of the game that they are not showing you. But let me warn you, the truth is tough. It's filled with deception and manipulation. Get ready to swallow some difficult truths about the gambling psychology that the society has hidden from you. And let me be clear, there are many of you who will continue to play this game even after learning this truth. But for you who listens, by the end of this video, you will be able to get the freedom from the addiction that is destroying your life. Every disaster has an origin story. Aviator does not begin in Kenya, where it's currently destroying lives. The story begins in Georgia, a country most people cannot find in a map. January 15th, 2019, Tbilisi, Georgia. Deep inside the Caucasus Mountain, a businessman called Teimuraz Uglava had an idea. Ordinary casino games weren't enough for Uglava. Bankrupting people slowly just didn't cut it for him. He wanted something faster, something viral. Enter Aviator, a game so simple that even your mom in Shags could understand it. And the sad part, she will later fall among the countless victims. The concept behind Aviator is a plane takes off, a multiplier increases, and you cash out before it flies away. This was revolutionary, if revolutionary means taking someone's money repeatedly. February 5th, 2019, just 2 weeks after launch, the global betting giant Flutter Entertainment acquired Uglava's company Ajarabet. But in their rush to close the deal, they forgot to secure the rights to the Aviator brand. This oversight would later explode into a $330 million legal dispute, but at that time, it simply meant Spribe, a small Estonian company, was free to spread this digital plague globally, and spread it did.
I'm too high for the fucking radio.
And I went bought a whip for my brother. Same whip in the 2 different colors. And I might just go get another. Smell cut to the keep it 100. And I might go so fast.
Just keeping it 100, nigga. Huh? Why you ain't buying whips and keeping it 100 and shit, nigga? Like, I done kept it over at 105, I say, nigga.
And I ain't gonna lie, Drake did ice out all his brothers, nigga. All Tays and shit.
Yeah. I get y'all. This nigga. No, fuck all that. I'm finna expose this nigga. This nigga randomly send us. I just made $23,000 on a slot. Okay.
23.
Nigga,
It was times he was sending 60,000 back to back to back.
Let's hear this shit.
Yo, I'm trying to.
I ain't bad, y'all shit, man.
Why don't they buy themselves them shits? How? You put all these men on, but they're just being funny, yo. And I'm just way down.
How do you learn to run a company? You know, throughout the years in business, I found something, which was I'd always ask why you do things. And the answers you invariably get are, oh, that's just the way it's done. Nobody knows why they do what they do. Nobody thinks about things very deeply in business. That's what I found. So I'll give you an example. When we were building our Apple I's in the garage, we knew exactly what they cost. When we got into a factory in the Apple II days, the accounting had this notion of a standard cost, where you kind of set a standard cost and then at the end of a quarter you'd adjust it with a variance. And I kept asking, well, why do we do this? And the answer was, well, that's just the way it's done. And after about 6 months of digging into this, what I realized was the reason you do it is because you don't really have good enough controls to know how much it costs. So you guess, and then you fix your guess at the end of the quarter. And the reason you don't know how much it costs is because your information systems aren't good enough. But nobody said it that way. And so later on, when we designed this automated factory for Macintosh, we were able to get rid of a lot of these antiquated concepts and know exactly what something cost to the second. So in business, a lot of things are, I call it folklore. They're done because they were done yesterday and the day before. And so what that means is if you're willing to sort of ask a lot of questions and think about things and work really hard, you can learn business pretty fast.
Shine. 1 million, 2 million dates. What is my bro saying here?
Headphones crushed at gym? Good thing you're naked and can submit claims in minutes on the Naked app. Get naked.
The Amazon Big Smile Sale is back, bursting with deals to give your office an instant promotion. From appliances to
Damn, I'm short with money. Can I see your body shape? It looks nice.
Men are chowing baddies for noodles and eggs at universities. Wow.
Sanbonet.
Yeah,
I've been trying to compose myself because
composure.
But I'm realizing I'll kind of sit here in the car for quite some time without having to come out. I just drove past on South Beach Road, like in the front.
Damn, bro, why does she have such a deep voice?
From Elangeni Maharani all the way down towards Garden Court and stuff.
What happened?
I saw kids, maybe close to Bangag, about 20 or something. Like there are groups of them. Those are babies. Those are kids, guys. They're out there getting because I don't think they voluntarily stood there almost naked. Liana Izulu Pandle. It's
Hey, there's nothing I can add. Like a woman talking to the baby girl, I only have enough time in a day, man. I don't waste my time. And if you're not gonna get to it, then just shut up then. Same body but two different colors. Shout out, nah, guys, let's just close off the stream. This is how long have I been on stream?